Hello, boys. How's it going? Welcome. Episode 23 of Rebels Without a Pod.
25.
You guys ready to get into it?
25.
What?
Come on.
25.
What? God damn it, I've already blown it.
Start over. Come on.
Leave all of this in. Leave all of this in.
You know what?
I'm voting for a new host.
I'm going to start over. Might as well get it right from the beginning.
Go for it.
Okay. Welcome, guys. Episode 25 of Rebels Without a Pod. Definitely not episode 23. This is the show that dares ask the question, does Rice Chex actually have sugar in it?
Nice.
Oh. Are you going to tell us the answer?
Nope.
Damn it.
I'm just going to forward you guys my blood work from my last physical.
So first of all, how's everybody doing tonight?
Yeah, doing well here.
Yeah,
it's good.
Everybody good?
I'm
Nice,
trying to get through kind of my running training plan. We have still 100-degree days in Vegas because we live in hell.
Dear Lord.
Yeah, but it's kind of going.
Humans are not meant to withstand that kind of heat, Johnny. Although I guess it's probably still better than what they've got coming in Florida right now. So
very true. Yeah,
Sean's
could be
like,
worse.
Give me a hurricane. Give me a mini hurricane.
Crucially, it's a dry heat. I know that's kind of.
It's a dry heat. That's such a bullshit thing for the people say to make themselves feel better about the fact that it's 120 degrees in October. Anyway,
I just want to say, by the way, if you're from New England and you ever visit like Nevada and you're exposed to dry heat, some people confuse that with COVID symptoms. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
That's a little tidbit for you.
If you live in Nevada and your friend from New England ever comes to visit you and he just ends up staying just 5 straight days hacking up a lung, be there as his friend, but just don't expect a thank you after the fact.
Just give him some steel cut oatmeal. He'll be fine. Those were all personal jokes, by the way. Don't feel bad if you didn't get them.
Again, steel cut oatmeal, just Rice Chex. It's good kind of jumping off point.
Yeah, there was no sugar in that.
Healthy
It
breakfast.
really does say a lot. So, okay. Everybody, my name is Andy, as you all, at least on the pod, know. And joining me this evening are Naveen on the woman, Eric, also known as Papa, on the Waka Wakas, and Johnny on the Works.
There we go.
Perfect.
On tonight's pod, we're discussing the 1981 Jim Henson movie classic, The Great Muppet Caper. But before we do so, if you guys had to pick a Muppet that you most closely identify with, which Muppet would it be and why? I'm putting you on the spot. You didn't see this one coming, so you guys need to be quick. Think on your feet. Yes, ands. Naveen, you're first. Ready, go.
Beaker. Most probably Beaker.
Beaker, and why?
Well, why? He's mostly quiet and just stays in the back there and just.
That's a good call. Eric?
Animal.
Why?
Because in the Great Muppet Caper, he was the only one in the final scene where he's like, woman, and just went, bye-bye, women.
Bye-bye, women. Johnny?
Kermit, but specifically like on the Muppet Show, like all like the backstage scenes where he's trying to keep everything together and he's just constantly just having like a nervous breakdown. It just made me think of my career like the past 20 years.
I mean, just be honest.
Really relatable as an adult.
You're into ham hocks. I get it. Ham hocks, pork chops, sweet sizzled bacon.
That's pretty on the nose. As the moderator, I've decided.
You know what else is on the nose?
or on the snout.
Yeah.
Me.
Bringing home the bacon.
As the moderator, I am giving myself permission to select 2 Muppets. I'm going with Statler and Waldorf because I am 1, a cantankerous son of a bitch, and 2, because I prefer box seats when I go to the theater. Yes. So, all right. So before we dive into the synopsis and reception and all that kind of stuff, briefly, do you guys have anything exciting? Corrections, coercions? What are you watching? Anything that needs to be discussed before we dive in? Anything pressing?
Ooh, right here. Me.
Yeah, Eric, what do you got?
So
got a
it's
race and-
October. It's October. It's Halloween season. I hope people have been watching Halloween related stuff or horror movies, whatnot.
Sure. Let's
Sure,
pretend like we
yeah.
have. Yep, definitely.
Tradition of my family is every year we have to watch at least once in October, usually in the first week. Charlie Brown and the Great Pumpkin,
Oh,
followed by
Classic.
Garfield's Halloween special, back to back.
I'm not sure I've ever seen Garfield's Halloween special.
Oh, really? I mean,
I don't know.
it's not great.
Mhm.
It definitely didn't age well, but there's some spooky shit from when I was a kid. And James Earl Jones actually plays a character in that. Not as himself, I should say. It's just kind of like the creepy old man that lives in a cottage on this remote island.
Okay. Interesting. Naveen, I see that you raised a hand.
Yeah, just to be funny, but also, yeah, I do. Just finished the second season of The Rings of Power, and I just want to kind of go through quickly. Like, the first season was really cool. It was really cool in the beginning, and then it kind of was and then they killed it at the end. So I wasn't really into the season 2. So season 2 going through, it's actually it got pretty good, and by the end,
that's what I've heard. Just kind of general chatter. It's sort of solidified what was kind of like a rocky start.
yeah.
Did you guys hear
So
that?
definitely
Did you
season
hear my
1.
phone just go fucking bananas right there?
No, missed it.
Sorry, that
No.
was bizarre. That scared the shit out of me.
Hmm.
Spooky. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Ooh.
Naveen.
No worries. So season 2 was actually pretty good. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Hmm. Nice.
Johnny?
The only thing I want to shout out, a local downtown kind of art cinema here in Vegas is doing 31 different horror movies over the course of October. And Monday night, I was lucky enough to get to see a theater projection of one of the greats we covered on this very podcast, The Thing, which was really
awesome.
amazing, which was so much fun. This is a movie that we've spent kind of plenty of time kind of thinking about, talking about already. So like I was kind of I went in. I didn't pick up on a kind of ton of new details from kind of seeing it like up on the big screen, but and I think I mentioned this on our high school group chat like maybe like a day or two ago. But the one thing that sort of jumped out at me as just being, for whatever reason, so goddamn funny is every scene where Wilford Brimley is doing like the alien autopsy. You actually see like the gloves that he's wearing. You figure they want to do these things in like kind of full hazmat suits or whatever they have like lying around. But the actual scene where you've got this big sort of red dripping sort of xenomorph carcass, Wilford Brimley is just kind of wearing these gloves that you would wear if you worked at a deli and you were just kind of just slicing up ham for people. He's got like these tiny, thin, shitty gloves, and he's like elbow deep in this thing going, and whereas that jumped out at me as being very, very funny. And the other thing I noticed, and this is why like Thing's one of the greats, is in the scene where MacReady brings Wilford Brimley out to like to the shack to lock him in. And I'm curious if you guys like notice this as well. Brimley has an open bottle of Smirnoff just kind of sitting on his desk, and MacReady picks it up and takes like a big swig of it before he kind of puts it down.
Ooh, no.
And I was watching that and like that kind of tosses every theory out the movie. Theory about the movie.
Depends how they're transmitted, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It might be through the rectum, in which case it's probably fine.
Rectum shit, they killed him.
Hey.
Oh, come on. You guys
No.
see Dreamcatcher, right?
That's
No?
amazing.
Okay.
Which? What was that?
Okay. The Stephen King book / they made into a movie.
Dreamcatcher.
Dreamcatcher.
Yeah, no.
The
not
guy's
familiar.
taking a dump and there's something in the toilet. And
what were they called? The butt weasels?
yeah, I think that's right. Right.
Amazingly, one of the Stephen King books he wrote after he got sober, I guess.
It's weird because I actually kind of liked them. Like the book starts out great. Where it ends up is a different story, but I felt like he stuck the landing on that one. So, I mean, with butt weasels, you're kind of setting the bar pretty low. So if you can explain that, then.
It's probably not a movie we should cover on this podcast, but if you're ever in the mood for just a completely gonzo, nonsensical horror movie, Dreamcatcher is a fucking fever. It's a movie that just it's impossible to explain to people after the fact.
And the book reads just like the movie, by the way. So it's a pretty faithful adaptation.
Well, nice.
Interesting. Okay, so I guess with that, let's move on to the main event here, which is to talk about the Great Muppet Caper. I do have my very own synopsis in brief that I put together. Not anywhere as good as what Johnny typically does, but it's my
come
first
on.
try.
Let's hear it.
Try.
My stuff's real up and down now.
Yeah, I know. John's talking about shit weasels. Are you really going to take anything he has to say? Like
Butt weasels.
Butt weasels. Butt weasels.
No,
Shitty butt
shit
weasels.
weasels was the actual correct reading.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. See, I read the
Also,
book.
a
Sorry,
horror
guys.
movie. It's definitely no Garfield's Halloween special.
Man, if it was, I would definitely run right out and watch Garfield's Halloween special because I would love to hear him talk about ass weasel, ass.
Oh, see, you can't even do it now.
Ass
Shame on you.
ermine,
Ass, yeah.
butt badgers. What is it?
Butt badgers.
All
Yeah.
right.
Take a look at this. Does this look normal? No.
Oh, come on. Keep that one.
Come on.
Normal
Next
cute,
time-
man. We all love normal.
Yeah, next time you're having your lasagna, you can save that one for yourself. There's your dessert.
This is what I get instead of points.
Synopsis in brief. Incontrovertible proof that every movie should have a synchronized swimming dream sequence. That's kind of my take on this movie.
I like it.
So this is a little bit long, but I'm gonna go through it. The Great Muppet Caper is a 1981 musical heist comedy by Jim Henson, making his feature directorial debut. This is the second film based on The Muppet Show, releasing shortly after the program's final season. It stars Henson, Frank Oz, Dave, I'm going to butcher some of these names, so just go with me. Dave Goelz, Goelz, Jerry Nelson, Richard Hunt, and Steve Whitmire as the Muppet performers, with Charles Grodin and Diana Rigg in the major human roles, and cameos by John Cleese, Robert Morley, Peter Ustinov, Jack Warden, and Peter Falk, who I will say was uncredited in this movie.
Yes.
Don't know why.
In maybe the most obvious Peter Falk role of all time, but
yeah, he basically played Columbo.
Yeah.
The film grossed only half the box office of the original Muppet movie, making $31 million in the U.S. It was the fifth highest grossing Muppet film overall, behind The Muppets in 2011, The Muppet Movie, 1979, Muppets Most Wanted, 2014, and Muppet Treasure Island, 1996. Critical reception of the movie at the time was positive to mixed, with some critics calling it, quote, predictable and uneven. Ebert, in his 2-star review, wrote, Henson and his associates haven't developed a screenplay that pays attention to the Muppet personalities. Instead, they ship them to England and dump them into a basic caper plot, treating them every bit as much like a formula as James Bond. However, the film is more warmly regarded by modern audiences and currently holds a 78% positive rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Eric Adams, writing for the AV Club in 2013, said, "It's a film that positively revels in its big, broad artificiality, deriving tremendous comedic freedom from direct takes to the camera and the running gag that the reporter characters, played by Kermit and Fozzie, are identical twins. Cue
So
this
good.
all-time great throwaway exchange between Muppet performer Jerry Nelson and his real-life dog. Look, Dad, there's a bear. No, Christine, that's a frog. Bears wear hats." Subsequent Muppet films put the characters on Broadway, plopped them into a high seas adventure, and put them in contact with alien life forms. But none of that matched the natural chaos and hidden warmth of Jim Henson's imagination, quite like the Great Muppet Caper. Not bad for a second try. Not bad indeed. We will talk later about whether it is the superior sequel or not. We'll get there. General impressions first, I think. Let's open it up to you guys. Naveen, let's hear what you have to say about this movie. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, I find it to be a very great movie. Funny, just some of the antics in there, and just not, I don't know, say relatable or not, but not necessarily relatable. It was just fun. It was just went by quick because it just was boom, 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 and even just part of the things where they like, all right, they like do a fake cut, and they're like, okay, you're not doing this part right. You got to fix it up. You know, that whole scene where Piggy's
800 different emotions.
yeah, and Kermit's like, you're hamming it up. You're hamming it up. Stop hamming it up. All right, let's come back, bring it back, and scene, and go. And it's like you're still in the middle of the movie. It's like it was great. Just a lot of fun.
They were doing 90s style fourth wall breaks and meta comedy like a decade and a half before they became like that.
I mean, how can you not love this movie? I was smiling from ear to ear, from opening credits to closing credits throughout the whole thing. I was so happy watching this stupid movie. I couldn't contain myself. The Muppets are a treasure. They're just an absolute treasure. We are so lucky to have them. And anyone that disagrees with that is a dumb idiot. Which brings us to Eric.
There we go.
Guys, I hate to break it to you, but yeah, it was hot garbage. It was just not good. Every dumb puppet, like with its stupid dead stare, just ate at my soul every second I watched it.
You need to watch it again, remember?
I gotta watch. That's right. I watched it at like 2 a.m. So I don't know if I went up to you guys, but I did watch the first one before I watched this. Did you guys watch the first one as well, or?
I caught the first one in the theater like about a month or two back. That's actually what inspired it.
Okay, yeah. So I haven't watched anything Muppet related since probably Muppet Babies.
What?
I never. So I mean, yeah. When I said it's not like completely untrue, but I just never felt compelled to go back and watch them. I mean, when they first had the show out, we were kids. I mean, I probably watched it with my parents, like reruns and stuff like that. Because when did it go until?
It was 76. The show ran 76 to 81. So we were 81, little. We were. It was maybe just a peak Muppets was just a little bit after our time. The show was 81. First Muppet movie in 79. It's for people our age, that would be a really early watch kind of thing, unless your family like mine were kind of really we're really
copies of episodes in VHS or something like that. My parents showed it to me as a kid. Maybe not growing up watching the show when it was like live on air, maybe that made a difference or not. I remember watching the movies now that I rewatched them. If you had asked me if I had seen them previously, I probably would have said yes. And as I was watching most of the first one, I don't remember really any of it. Although the things that stuck out to me for the first one, I just want to say I had the soundtrack to the first Muppets movie on record. I would listen to it pretty often. It was all about the Rainbow Connection. It was it's a bunch of good songs on there actually. And also Mel Brooks in the first movie. Holy,
he's so going for it.
He's still like, I was like, this movie's okay. It's not really, some of the laughs I'm kind of like, haha, it's good. You know, I didn't write down any jokes I got from the movie, but I thought it was pretty good. But yeah, Mel Brooks steps on screen. I'm like, let's see how he does. He truly hams it up.
He definitely won't be a completely over-the-top Nazi scientist.
Oh my God.
That would be nuts in a PG movie.
What I wrote down from his scene, I wrote down the words Das Switch, which he actually said, Das Switch, and electric yarmulke. Holy shit. Yep. He stole that movie. They couldn't get it back after that. Oh, they did have Steve Martin in there as well, which I thought he was...
Vinda, Idaho.
Okay.
Yeah. Would you like to try this wine? Oh, why don't you try it? And he's like, spits it out. He's like, it's pretty good. He's like, that's what I expect for like a 95-cent bottle of wine. Ugh, so good. Second movie, I will say this: the humor was there right from the start when they're in the hot air balloon. Gonzo's sitting there like talking to Kermit while Kermit and Fonzie are having their own discussion. Gonzo's like, how long do you think it would be like take me to like hit the ground if I jumped out of the hot air balloon? I'm like, so fucking random. And then he just keeps the bit going. Right. And they're like, oh, I don't think you should do that, Gonzo.
The credits.
Yeah, that's the credits. That's the opening credits.
Like people don't actually read these things. right? And Kermit's just like, no, they all have families.
They all have families.
Yeah.
What does BSC stand for?
Yeah. Still have no idea. I was
cinematographers, I think.
Yeah, you got
That's
it.
exactly. Yep. I think that's right.
I mean, I love the running bit with the twins. They're both twins. It's so funny. They kept bringing that up. There's a lot of jokes they kept bringing up. What color are their hands now was the big one, where it's like red-handed. Well, what color are their hands now? It's like 3 or 4 times they dropped that one.
Yep.
And the bike ride scene, they have Kermit riding a bike in the very first movie. This one, they're like, you know what, let's get 10 Muppets like riding bikes.
And Kermit doing a handstand.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. I did not look up how they did that. I'm sure somebody will reveal it during this podcast. I really don't need to know.
I would ask nobody, if you do know off the top of your head, if you cannot say it, Roger Ebert in his review of the original Muppet movie has a line about that I really, really love. He says, it's paraphrasing, but something to the point of, it was astounding to watch Kermit ride a bike. I don't know how they did it. I don't want to know how they did it. I just like to believe that Kermit was riding the bike himself. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
They even had like the rats riding bikes. Holy shit. I was like, okay, that's it. You can't top that.
Yeah, pretty good.
Last thing I'll say, I was excited. They did have Big Bird randomly in there. And I felt like they were alluding to like that Big Bird movie, Follow That Bird, but I looked it up. That didn't come out till 1985.
Yeah,
that's like 4 years after that it finally came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Carol Spinney gets cameos in both those movies because he's Big Bird in the first one, and he has the real kind of short bit as Oscar the Grouch.
Oscar the Grouch was in the first one, yeah.
No, all the way around.
Oh, other way around. Sorry, yeah, you're right. Yep. Swap them.
When Peter Ustinov gets pulled out of the truck and he just kind of gets thrown into like pile of garbage, Oscar pops out. What are you doing here? A very brief cameo.
Yeah.
Did you know who that guy was, by the way?
If we had grown up in the UK, this guy was more kind of famous.
Dude, I looked it up. Filmography. You see what he was in?
No.
Spartacus.
Spartacus.
He was also in the movie Logan's Run.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've seen Logan's Run. There's a few different British actors. Maybe they're all British. I don't know. He
hosted the Muppet Show in maybe like the first or second season. He's a guy that just like very much bigger in the UK and just like again like kind of fairly ahead of our time.
Nice.
Johnny, anything else to add about your?
This was my pick for superior sequels. It's growing up, it's really impossible to kind of overstate how big a deal like the Henson stuff was, because it was to me how big a deal Sesame Street was, how big a deal like the Muppets actually were. I hadn't actually thought about this until just a bit earlier today, but my first memory is actually kind of Muppet related. I'll sort of bring this up, not to kind of bring the conversation down too much, but my first memory is actually of being in a hospital inside of an oxygen tent. I had when I was very little, I had very severe problems with asthma and allergies, and I had to be hospitalized a couple times. And I have this one memory kind of shortly before my brother was born of just kind of being in an oxygen tent. My parents showing up and handing me some Sesame Street little rubber finger puppets through like the folds of the tent.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I had the finger puppets as a kid too.
Yeah. I looked it up. You can get the whole set for $150 on eBay right now.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I remember in my crib I had a what is it? It's like something to hold like little finger puppets. Finger puppets were really big in like, was it like 81, 82 or something? My mom got into like knitting them so she could make all the different characters that they didn't release. Okay. And so I remember I had like little Sesame Street character, like finger puppets, like in my crib or whatever that I'd go and play with when I was 27.
Just be honest. Are you the one selling them for $150 on eBay right now?
Look, my mom knitted them in 1982, so I just
vintage.
I think it's vintage.
My parents always loved telling the story about how I was so obsessed with Sesame Street growing up that one year I had to finish watching the episode of Sesame Street that was on before opening my Christmas presents. It was just,
Wow.
it was a huge, like very big deal thing to me. We did, to the earlier point, just not watch kind of like a ton of the Muppet Show. Like we had all three of like the original Muppet movies on Betamax, and like additionally something like the TV specials like Emmett Otter and like the Frog Prince, and of course
yeah.
I don't believe we had like the movie soundtrack, but we had like the Muppet TV show soundtrack, which is also excellent.
Oh, okay.
Tons of books by them and everything else, and it's it was something that I was really obsessed with back in the day. This is something that we'll speak to like a little bit later, but I'm sure my parents were sort of fairly relieved that I was into, out of all like the different kind of children's television that was out there, like one of the things like Muppets are sort of famous for. This is something adults can also sort of watch and like enjoy like a different level. It was funny just earlier, Andy sort of giving me like sort of just anointing me with like the bork line, because one of the funniest things I sort of realized kind of like after the fact about my childhood is at my house growing up, when we would watch like the Muppet Show, every single time the Swedish Chef would come on. My mother is of Norwegian descent. My grandfather like emigrated from Norway, and my mother's name is Solveig. It's a very kind of traditional Norwegian name. Every time the Swedish Chef came on the Muppet Show, my father would always point and go, "Look, John, it's Mommy's relative." And I just, Mommy's relative. It's an amazing joke.
I don't know what he's saying. And he's like, "Don't worry, John, none of us do, even the Swedish."
I got to be honest, Johnny. That's why I picked the Swedish Chef, even though I know Sweden and Norway are very different countries. Basically the same.
I've had conversations with Swedish people about that. What drives them nuts is the Swedish Chef has an accent that is much, much more recognizably Norwegian than it actually is.
Oh shit!
Interesting. Okay.
I've spent time in Stockholm. You listen to people sort of speaking Swedish. It's kind of like from a fair distance. It's English sounding. It's uninflected. The more up and down kind of bingy boingies kind of stuff. That's much more typical of kind of like the Norwegian accent, particularly for older generations.
The bingy boingies.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that down. The bingy boingies.
That's good. Interesting.
Yeah, but for this one, we started talking sequels. Both the original and Great Muppet Caper are movies I absolutely sort of love to death. This one was kind of like, I think it'll sort of be kind of great one or the other, but I wanted to kind of like my childhood memory of liking this movie just a little bit more than like the Muppet movie. As a kid, I wanted to kind of see how that would kind of stack up against a kind of like an adult reassessment of it.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's clear cut at all. I'll talk about that a little bit later. At least my take on that. But I think it's an interesting conversation. Okay, so three of the four of us are kid parents, and then we have a plant daddy as well. But regardless of that, as adults, I'm not going to say it as parents, but as adults, what sort of newer kids entertainment that may have been made with, I guess, adults in mind, have you enjoyed? Are you still enjoying? Are you looking forward to seeing anything like that?
This question kind of specifically, my thinking back of just like so much 80s stuff when you kind of revisit it that we grew up on, that we love, you revisit as an adult, and you're like, this is completely awful. This is unwatchable.
Yeah.
What thing
Sure.
Our parents must have had to kind of suffer through to kind of sit through like this bullshit, as opposed to like the Muppets sort of being kind of the rare exception for that. I kind of picked this question for the three of you guys because I'm kind of curious, the three of you being fathers, what's the modern version of that? What are the TV shows that your kids are into, that when they put on, you're like, oh, thank God, I can actually sort of sit there and kind of watch it along with them.
Andy, say the first one that comes up. If you check anywhere online and that you have a affinity for,
I mean,
what's the first one you think of?
The very first one that came to my mind was Phineas and Ferb.
Oh man, sure. I thought you were gonna say Over the Garden Wall.
No, well, okay, I didn't count that because I don't. That definitely did come to mind, and it came to mind probably almost at the same time as Phineas and Ferb. Phineas and Ferb, to be clear, might be my favorite. I'm going to qualify it. When I say cartoon, I mean like zany, wacky cartoon, not necessarily, X-Men or that kind of stuff, but like sort of those fun, in the vein of Looney Tunes or Animaniacs.
Is that a cartoon where there's like a German doctor and there's like a weasel secret agent that he's always fighting?
He's a platypus. Johnny, if you have not, and I mean this sincerely, if you have not watched Phineas and Ferb,
okay,
I implore you to do so, because it is so much of it is your humor. You will get such a kick out of a lot of it. It is brilliant. And I'm not just saying that as like, oh, well, my kids watched it and it's like, oh, it came on and I can stomach this. I would sit there, and I have sat there in my hotel room. This is the God's honest truth. In my hotel room in Minneapolis, Minnesota, earlier this year, I actually sat and watched an episode of Phineas and Ferb by myself in my underwear eating sushi.
Wearing the Charles Grodin flowered socks, hopefully.
Wearing the Charles Grodin flowered socks.
It's a very Andy thing. I mean, most of our records, you don't have pants on, so. Or maybe that's just how I imagine you.
I mean, I don't right now. That's coincidental, though. Yeah. So Phineas and Ferb, but Over the Garden Wall is amazing. For anybody that hasn't seen it,
It's so
they
adult.
should see it. It's very adult. That's why I kind of didn't think about it as like
Cartoon Network. So you figure it's like it's one of the main animators that used to work on Adventure Time, and he used to write some of the episodes as well. He was really into the project. So and this was kind of like his own thing he'd been working on the side, and came up with it. And it's although I think I did say this was last year. I was bringing my kid to school, and there's a group of kids, and they're walking, and they're singing at the top of their lungs. They're like, potatoes and molasses. And I was like, son of a bitch. It only took 10 years for people to start watching it again?
It's so good. It's so good.
It's interesting because it also predated, I feel, with streaming services, particularly stuff like Netflix and Hulu, those kind of really sort of smart, artsy cartoon miniseries became a bit more of a thing, a bit more of a format. But I feel like Over the Garden Wall, which is great, kind of it's the idea of that kind of predated, like sort of that being a bit more standard thing for kind of children.
Yeah.
So,
I saw it for the first time. It was just like a marathon run of it. I was actually at the Nickelodeon. It's no longer there anymore, but it was like the Nickelodeon Resort in Florida. Really? And I told my son Caleb, I was like, oh my god, it's we have to watch this. We've been seeing the trailer all over the place, and just sat there and watched the whole thing. I mean, we're surrounded by just like lush, beautiful weather. We're at the Nickelodeon Resort. We could go out and jump at the pool. There's like big slime bucket that would drop every 5 minutes. We just sat there and watched.
Are you saying now? Let's see what bullshit Greg gets up to this episode.
That is way too on brand and on the nose for you, Eric. I'm sorry, dude.
Or it's a party pooper. Look, I didn't plan it. We planned the trip far in advance. It just happened that way.
So Naveen, I know that you have not seen Over the Garden Wall yet. I would kindly ask you to not watch it yet, because I really think that we should watch it as a pod at some point in the not too distant future. I did pitch it for our Halloween episode. We came up with a different idea for that, but I do think that
it's a good one to keep on the back burner for sure.
It's only 2 hours. Right. And I would love to see it from your perspective, having, that being the first time that you watched it, because I've seen it all the way through once, and then I've seen it kind of piecemeal, a couple of other times as well. And I know Eric has obviously seen it, and Johnny has also seen it. I also think that Johnny's take on some of the characters is funny and worth.
I have a certain angle on it where, as much as I did enjoy that, I think there was two, maybe three moments in the show where I'm just like, Wirt just needs to spend 30 seconds kind of just beating Greg's ass, just knock the tea kettle off his head, just step on the frog.
Wow.
This is what I'm referring to, and I now ask you.
Oh no!
There's a real look of shock on his face. Right?
Have you ever seen Never Ending Story 3.
Never ending story.
It's not the first. No, I'm kidding.
I didn't know there was
Valcor's
a
getting
three.
ass eaten by like a little smaller Valcor,
Oh,
and they were doing these little somersaults in the air, like Spirited Away. It was great.
oh really?
But that's just for you and me.
So apart from Phineas and Ferb, I'll throw out the other ones that I wrote down, and then I'll move on to somebody else. But I said Gravity Falls. If you haven't seen Gravity
Never
Falls,
seen it, but yeah, that's what I've heard.
One of the absolute, just something I adored front to back. Got my brother into it. It's one of his favorite just kind of TV shows of all time.
it's so weird and so interesting. It's also beautiful. I mean, the animation is amazing in that show.
And again, just ran very committedly for only 2 seasons. Story has like a beginning, like middle, and end. Also, interestingly, it's in a shared universe with Rick and Morty. That's been 100% confirmed by both creators.
I did not know that. Interesting.
Oh, wow.
Big City Greens, which is more
great
Very
show.
funny.
That's so good.
fantastic.
Eric actually showed it to me for the first time. So
Yeah.
fun.
Such
Really,
a great
really
show.
like that. I did say Adventure Time, which Eric, you mentioned a little bit
Yep.
earlier. And then finally, if you haven't watched it, Kipo and the Age of the Wonder Beasts, the Age of Wonder Beasts on Netflix is so much hipper and cooler and better than it should be. The soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal, all like kind of hip hop, like it's super good. The characters are great. The voice actors are amazing. The story is really, really awesome. Couldn't recommend it enough. It's fantastic.
Kipo, the lead character, voiced by Karen Fukuhara, who also plays Kimiko in The Boys.
That is
Oh,
correct.
you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yep. I had seen that.
That is correct. Naveen, do you have anything to add?
No, not really. I mean, when Keith was around things, we didn't. We had very minimal streaming and didn't have cable at all. The only things I would say is would be more of the movies. Like I did enjoy the Frozen movies, which were actually pretty good, and I wasn't expecting that.
Yep.
We mentioned it a few times, and I have not kept up with it pretty well, but I know I liked Despicable Me. The Toy Story movies were all great and things. So it's mostly
Pixar generally was a thing for you guys.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Yeah, Pixar stuff. When she was younger, I mean, I know there's a lot of Pixar stuff that's come out recently that I haven't watched. I know she's watched it because then, she's older. She watches things on her own and just goes and that's all she seems to do when she's at her mother's. What she tells, is like, just watch movies. So it's mostly just the movie stuff as opposed to shows. I've seen a couple episodes of Phineas Ferb here and there, and I do agree it's pretty good, but not enough.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's so good. Eric, what about you?
All right, I got a few here. I have a few different ones. First one I want to call out. I don't know. This is not a cartoon. Did you guys ever watch Fuller House?
Hell yeah.
Did you? Yeah, you went.
It's great.
I like John's reaction. Just like it's fucking gross. That's like going back and watching the Muppet movie.
It's nothing at all like going back and watching the Muppet movie, but keep going.
Guys, I'm here all week.
It's way better than you would think it would be, Johnny.
I'm here all week at the Nickelodeon Resort. Not going outside. There's a hurricane.
We still to this day, anytime somebody gets a little bit panicky or whatever, one of us will yell, "Anxiety!" Anybody that's seen Fuller House will get that joke. Anyway, continue, Eric.
Yeah. So there, I remember going into it. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. I like what they did here. The writing's pretty solid. They bring back most of the characters and they introduce them in like a very creative and believable way. There was one episode. I don't remember what I was doing. I was half paying attention. And Stephanie started talking about how she couldn't have children. Do you remember this? And holy fuck, that caught me so off guard. Yep. She's just like, it was just this huge thing. She starts telling the story and then she just breaks down. And then she's just like, I can't have children. And I was like, oh shit, I got kids like right here. Like what's going through their brains? And I look over at them, eyes glazed over.
Yeah,
right.
She could have been talking about how to eat marshmallows. I don't know. So I'm like, that would be me as a kid. That would be the appropriate response. It just kind of goes over your head. You're like, oh, okay, that sucks.
This guy in a trench coat trying to sell Kermit a watch. What's the angle here?
Yeah, what's the
I
deal
know.
there? Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a good deal. That was one I had. Another one is, and you guys probably have not watched this. This was when Caleb was younger. I've watched every episode of this. This was Ninja Turtles. They re-released it it's like an animated series that was on Nickelodeon. This was maybe like 2012 or 13. It ran for probably about 4 years. It had the Ninja Turtles were voiced by like Sean Astin, Seth Green, Jason Biggs, Kate Micucci
Really?
did a voice as well. I think she was April. Corey Feldman did the voice of Slash.
Slash.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like Guns N' Roses Slash?
Yeah, like Guns N' Roses
Teenage
Slash.
Mutant Ninja
Yeah.
Turtles? All right.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Cool.
so, it was pretty wild cast. I was like, that's kind of like, people that we grew up watching. So just to summarize, there was one episode all about LARPing. I thought
This is
that
the Ninja
was
Turtles?
yes, in Ninja Turtles. I thought it was amazing. They actually released action figures of the LARPing episode.
Really?
They had one about magic mushrooms and how everybody was having fever dreams, and they were getting these huge epic fights in these like shroom verses.
What?
Yeah. There was another one that was it was very similar to like the first Friday the 13th movie, where it was like they were in the woods and there was some guy with a hockey mask hunting people down that was like half plant or something like that, or all plant. There was an episode they had the guy that does Napoleon Dynamite doing the Napoleon Dynamite voice for
John Hader?
Genghis Frog.
Genghis Frog?
Oh no, the other one.
Mondo Gecko?
Not Mondo Gecko. He's one of the other frogs. There's like 4 frogs.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I forget. So yeah, he did one of the voices for that. And the whole episode, he just played Napoleon from Napoleon Dynamite,
That's
which
amazing.
was insane. They also brought back characters like Razar, Toka, Super Shredder, a bunch of them. So that was
the knockoff Grand
fans.
Rocksteady Bebop we got from the second Ninja Turtles live action.
Yeah.
Well,
They were
what
like
was the actual name of the show?
it was called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, okay.
And maybe it says animated series underneath. It's not that new one that they released on Netflix that they only did like a season or 2.
Is this the same one with the Ice Cream Kitty?
Yes, Ice Cream Kitty. Michelangelo keeps Ice Cream Kitty in the. It was like a failed Donatello experiment where he gave sentient life to ice cream, strawberry ice cream.
With like a box of like Neapolitan ice cream, it just turned into a cat.
Yeah, and he kept in the freezer. He's like, "I love you, Ice Cream Kitty." So amazing.
The cat's like, "Oh," but every time he comes out,
Yeah.
it starts melting.
I loved when he fought with Ice Cream Kitty and he just get ice cream on him. So that was great. That was a good one. It's definitely for any of the fans back in the 80s. So many callbacks. It was awesome. The other one I have to mention for Johnny's sake is Teen Titans.
Wait, which one?
Teen Titans Go.
Teen Titans Go.
Teen Titans Go.
I mean, I saw Teen Titans was on the list too. I didn't watch that one. That can kind of encapsulate any superhero animated show.
Right.
But
Teen Titans Go. The first 3 seasons, I was kind of like I was like obsessed with for like a short while because it felt almost like a kind of like a second generation Adult Swim show that they somehow managed to get
seriously
on like the main there is literally there's a double length episode of Teen Titans Go where the boys and the girls kind of go their separate ways and have kind of 2 different stories, and the girls kind of go off and have their own kind of personal adventure story, and the boys, their story is they literally reenact a first season episode of C-Lab 2021, the time travel specific. And it is just my jaw was on the floor watching that for the first time.
I'm telling you that the music, like all the musical bits from that show, just fucking hit.
It's
so
really
hard.
good.
The Pyramid Scheme Money song, we still sing that in this house. Who was it? Pies. Who is it? How's it go? It's like, I've got pies. Pies. Who's got pies? I've got pies. Pies.
Remind me how the Pyramid Scheme, like when
how'd that one go? I got the money, the pyramid scheme money. I got that money, that pyramid scheme money. Remember? Oh, the episode with the bees.
Yeah.
Bees for currency.
I showed that episode to you and your kids, and you were just kind of squinting at the time. But I'm like, this will land. They're going to come back around to this one.
I'm telling you, they keep going back to that episode. If let's watch Teen Titans Go, we always go back to that episode.
I knew it. Yeah,
it's so good.
It's literally an episode about cryptocurrency, except it's bees. Like the currency is bees.
Yeah,
and like the people with the most bees has the most money, but also kind of keeps getting sort of stung constantly. And it actually has there's actually like a real sort of legitimate explanation of how kind of government-backed fiat currency works. Like in the middle of the episode,
it took about really 3 viewings for me to be asked. So, can you actually use bees for money? And I was like, no.
That's amazing.
What's it like? Here's your change: 2 bees and a wasp.
Yeah, 2 bees and a wasp.
Johnny, do you have any to add to this list?
Just sort of a couple. I mean, for me, Adventure Time. The initial seasons of Teen Titans Go. Unfortunately, it had that kind of corporate thing happen where it was just it was a show that initially nobody cared about. They were able to kind of do what you want, but if you watch it from like the 4th season on, it kind of the quality and the weirdness of it kind of drops off, sort of very precipitous thing. 2 other Gravity Falls is just an amazing piece of sort of work in cartoon storytelling front to back. I recommend that one highly enough. The 2 I would kind of add to that pile, like a little bit more obscure, but the 2 Netflix miniseries called Kid Cosmic and Centaur World. I won't sort of kind of just kind of burn too much, kind of just oxygen, just kind of explain those. But Kid Cosmic is it's kind of a superhero themed story done by Craig McCracken, who's like a the very popular Cartoon Network creator. The first episode you're watching, you think this is going to be like a kind of a standard sort of by the numbers. Oh, this is piggybacking on Marvel kind of thing, and then it gets insane, and it continues to be completely insane for like the rest of the run, including the introduction of a Thanos character voiced by Bobby Moynihan.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and Centaur World, like a little bit kind of outside like the kind of thing that I usually like, because it's sort of like a singing horse in like a magical land trying to have an adventure and find like a human rider and like all the rest of that. And it's mostly just kind of voiced by kind of Broadway stars, and it just there's several different kind of sort of musical kind of breaks in every episode. But the show is that plus deeply, deeply weird kind of avant-garde Adult Swim humor, plus occasional sort of moments of kind of David Cronenberg style body horror stuff put into like a G-rated kind of kid stuff.
For kids.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's both of them are just excellent. I will kind of put it.
That was a Johnny recommendation to me, by the way. It's been
sure.
5 years now. Look at me, wide awake. I haven't lost 1 wink of sleep.
Are you going to watch Centaur World or Dune 2 first?
Oh God! Look, I'm still getting over watching 2 Muppet movies in 1 week, so I need time.
You look perfectly well rested. I'm not.
Do I? Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll come back around to that question next week then.
One last question for Eric, though. What's wrong with bus terminals? No? Okay, throw a Gonzo line.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, yeah. I forget where that goes. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Didn't the guy from what was it, Kid Cosmic, his brother work on the Dreamcatcher there? His brother Phil?
Phil McCracken?
Phil and Butts?
Hey! No, that was the
Butt Weasel.
Butt Weasel.
Yeah.
Butt Weasels.
Ass Pirates.
All right, so moving swiftly along from Ass
Weasel.
I was trying to think of a little rodent-y animal that started with A, and I blanked. So Johnny, you actually specifically asked Naveen to prepare a brief sort of analysis from the perspective of somebody that understands music and is a music teacher of what you said is one of your absolute all-time favorite musical performances from any movie across the board, Happiness Hotel. So if Naveen, are you prepared to try to tackle Johnny's request here?
And my question was sort of purely just it's a song that I love so much, and I think it's one of these parts of the movie that really aged amazingly. I was just curious from Naveen actually having, just sort of professional education around this, if there's anything kind of interesting or sort of compelling that he wanted with that will sort of kind of underline like this song, how it's constructed, like anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm a music teacher and things, and it's in there, but songwriting is its own little beast in itself, and it's something that people can do well, and some people can't do well. But listening to it, hearing it, I loved it too. I mean, the biggest thing is that it does have that verse chorus feel to it with some solos thrown in and some little banter in between. But the biggest thing is that makes music and popular and upbeat is just kind of like that repetition. So that melody line is just consistent throughout, and it's catchy. With all the jokes and the rhyming, he's kind of like a little bit like poetry.
It helps that all the interstitial jokes in like the song itself, they're all fun. Each one of them kind of hit as they go along.
Right. So it's like so many different things, and it's also just that rhythm, that it's consistent. The melody line that's consistent is kind of similar as I was going to poetry. You get those ones that just have that flow. Everybody for years to come has that roses are red, violets are blue type, poem kind of thing. So it's that similar kind of just repetition, and of course being upbeat helps out as well. That it's just happy, jovial, even though they're talking about how bad it is. So there's that kind of
it's a wonderful, we live in complete misery, but we have community and like a sense of humor about it.
Right. Yeah.
So there it is.
That's what I could come up with. And again, the songwriting in itself is its own beast. That, I mean, I don't do it well. I've tried it and gotten some things, but again, it's a tough thing.
It's the kind of thing you can spend like your whole life trying to figure out.
I mean, John, I was going to mention too. My Vigo's toast for today, or the fun fact was during that whole musical scene, they had subliminal imagery of Muppets getting it on. So I mean, that whole kind of weird thing probably got you really red hot for the music scene.
This is the one where they sort of superimpose like just faded pictures of sort of like the butt weasels over like kind of.
It's kind of like I thought it was like a baby carrot, but it was actually green, and it was being like jammed really hard and just being splattered all over like this big pink.
Like, parents are going to listen to this episode. You're aware of this.
Oh,
right?
Really? Watermelon. It was a watermelon.
Okay.
The skinless watermelon.
Yeah. One of those watermelons that you see.
The ones they produce in Japan, they're not edible, but they're bright pink and rump like.
But at the same time, you're not wrong there.
Turn it off after the oxygen tent story.
What was that, Naveen?
But at the same time, Eric, you're not wrong there, because watching the first one, there was that scene where again Piggy was having a fantasy with Kermit, and then she just goes in the grass, and all of a sudden, Kermit's like, ooh, and goes in. I'm like, what just happened there?
Yeah.
And then the fantasy
ends. What Ryan thing is this?
Yeah. And then it just cuts to bicycle riding.
Yeah.
How the hell are they doing that?
Nice.
When I saw that in the first one, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
This is kids?
My wife came over while I was watching the movie, and I was so focused on that scene. And she's just like putting her hand in front of my face, and I'm just like, let them finish.
Yeah.
Wait for the bicycles. Let them finish.
It's like your kids finding out that Stephanie can't have kids, just completely glazed over.
Yeah, my wife's like, what is that, a skinless watermelon?
Johnny, you're right. It's a great song. There are so many great songs that have come out of the Muppets, just across the board. They're various different, the show and the movies. And I mean, you mentioned Eric, I think earlier, you mentioned Rainbow Connection, which is just an incredible song.
The way it starts the movie with that right there, that hits the feelers.
All right.
I had completely forgotten that was how the Muppet movie started. Because I haven't seen it in a really, really long time.
It's not even a funny scene.
It's not.
What a way to introduce the movie.
But it's so good. It works so well.
Yeah.
So interesting little bit of trivia about Great Muppet Caper. The Supper Club, sort of a Busby Berkeley kind of number that they do the first time it happens, actually got an Oscar nomination for the Oscars.
Really?
Wait, which scene is this?
Beg pardon?
Which scene was this?
This is at the Debonair Club where Piggy and Kermit are slow dancing.
Oh,
okay. Slowly, and Diana Rigg's kind of diamonds are stole at the end of it.
Yep,
it was nominated for an Oscar. It lost to Burt Bacharach and Christopher Cross for the theme to the Arthur, I guess. Which
the Arthur movie? Jesus,
you do whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so weird that we actually get that reference to like the Arthur movie.
It's so weird that the Arthur movie was like successful. Have you guys ever seen Arthur?
No.
There was more than one.
Yeah, but like, have you ever seen the original? It's basically just a drunk Englishman bumbling around. That's the whole movie.
Hello,
love.
We made relatively recently with Russell Brand.
They did remake it with Russell Brand. Yes, they did.
Gross. Oh,
yes. And I have seen it, and yes, Eric, you're right.
Yeah. The fact that you watched it all the way to the end.
I did.
You were fully committed.
I think I watched it on an airplane. I'll watch anything on an airplane.
I guess so.
Yeah. Very low standards when I'm at 30,000 feet.
Right.
Did anybody else, since you brought up the Dubonnet Supper Club there, I don't know why, but it just reminded me of the opening restaurant scene of Temple of Doom.
Okay,
a little bit. It's kind of ripping on like the filmmakers of that age. Henson and Spielberg, like they're kind of riffing on the sorts of things that they kind of grew up with. I mean, there are multiple. Just basically every single sort of big musical set piece, Piggy, or when kind of Kermit is kind of singing about kind of going out with Star, like that's pulling off of like Busby Berkeley, or if he's supposed to be kind of either Ginger, I think Ginger Rogers or Esther Williams, like in a lot of those things. I mean, it's a couple levels removed, but that's kind of what a lot of what movies just were like back in the day.
Naveen, are you referring to the part where they eat the monkey brains?
No.
Oh, I think Naveen's talking about like literally like the intro credits.
The very intro. Are they saying like anything goes in like or something like that?
Yeah, and the restaurant just had that like two tiers, they both did, and I think this open just like his dance floor.
I mean, a pig and a frog dancing. I guess anything goes.
Now I remember the scene. I'm looking at pictures on Google. I had completely forgotten about that part. Yeah. You're right. It does. Definitely reminiscent of that.
So it's just kind of like bit divergent question for you guys, but what did you think about sort of like the musical numbers, like in like this particularly like the big sort of showy, like sort of like the swimming pool one, or like the dance at like the supper club? Because I'm just kind of curious, because those were always the parts of the movie when I was like little, watching it on the family Betamax. I would always kind of fast forward.
I wasn't too focused on them, to be honest. I actually the synchronized swimming one, when Piggy's walking down the runway in the bathing suit. Yeah, I was more focused on her legs, but I mean, she popped out of that fountain all wet. She was raring to go.
Can I just call out the scene where they have the full body shot of her and she dives off of the pedestal into the water, and how uncanny valley weird that, because it's clearly a human in like a mascot suit, and the proportions are not quite right for Miss Piggy. And I watched it, and like there was this brief moment where I was like, that's truly bizarre and off-putting, and then she jumps into the water and it goes away. But like, yeah, there was that one brief moment where I'm watching it on the screen going,
there's a
I
similar
don't like
one
that.
when she's kind of when she's on like this like the stunt motorcycle towards the end of the movie. There's a couple points because they probably couldn't get like a midget or a child to kind of like ride like the motorcycle, but it's just clearly just a fully grown adult wearing kind of like a horrifying sort of piggy mask.
Yes.
I was horrified in that scene because I kept thinking like the person that's diving into the water with that suit on probably started suffocating the second they hit the water.
Instantly. That's a good. Oh man, that's dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They said that was overwhelmingly the hardest part of like the movie to actually film. They said like
was it really?
They said because like the water like the piggy puppet sort of just kept coming apart and like dissolving as they were trying to film the thing. Like Frank Oz had to take scuba diving lessons to kind of like do like the work.
It's like the Gremlins when they just got like the sunlight on them, they started melting, and it's just.
Well, in the opening scene, I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm stealing anybody's Vigo's toes on this one, but in the opening scene where they're in the hot air balloon, apparently that scene went horrifically wrong at one point. There was a bit of a crash. The balloon hit the ground and tipped over, and Fozzie, or at least the Fozzie puppet, spoiler alert, was like, I guess, burned like really badly to the point where they had to bring in somebody to like fix it, who they then from that point forward referred to as the Muppet Doctor or the Puppet Doctor or something like that.
Yeah. Because there was nobody actually in that balloon. It was like the far away shots that were like balloon, like the balloon itself was controlled by like radio signal, and I think it's sort of like it was kind of like Disney style robotics.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So
I thought you were gonna say it was like Deadpool 2 when then like Deadpool's team were like jumping out of the plane and they were going down to land, and then one of them went into a wood chipper.
Yep.
Just before that, you see exactly 1 second of Brad Pitt. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
For the musical numbers, because you had that question earlier, the ones I really just remember would be the Happiness Hotel one because that was just great and fun. So I never.
That's like the crown jewel of like the song.
Yeah, and then I never forwarded over the Miss Piggy one because I thought it was just hilarious because all of a sudden you get these little silhouettes and pop outs of Kermit and Charles Grodin just singing, and Charles Grodin, you could obviously tell even when I was a kid.
He was like dubbed by like an opera singer.
Yeah.
He's not singing that, and he's like,
It's obvious, and one of the best jokes I think in the movie, as the police are dragging Piggy away, she's just screaming at him, "That's not even your voice. You were dubbed."
That's so good.
He was honestly in the movie. He way overacted. Every scene he's in, it was pretty painful to watch.
I thought it was really creepy because he's constantly looking at his sister's jewelry, but it's like it's like staring, gawking.
I kept forgetting that. That's his sister. I was like, oh man, they're like stepbrother and sister.
None of us have had a sister who looks like Diana Rigg, so just you can't be too judgmental.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean that is true. I don't know that makes it better, but or explains it away. But you're right. Okay, so I guess on that note, let's move on to the overarching question that we've had throughout this entire cycle, which is, was this movie actually a superior sequel to the original? Was The Great Muppet Caper a better film than the Muppet movie?
And it has everyone, remind me, has everyone here rewatched the original one, at least for like the pod, or seen it recently?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eric, you go first since you're the biggest Muppet fan here.
Yeah, please let me. I love to explain my opinion. Okay. So the first one, I'll say, for people that are nostalgic for the film, especially the music, I think that's a big draw. Some of the jokes too that are there. People, I looked online. A lot of people seem to remember or like quote from that movie. It's like if you're trying to find peace, something about Hare Krishna. Maybe you should find Hare Krishna.
Yeah,
they keep doing it, and then there's a scene where there's a church and in front.
I'm lost. Have you tried Hare Krishna?
Yeah. And then there's the scene where they bring it tight.
This was 1979. They're making that joke. That's insane.
That was so
There's that
great.
sign that said
Loved it.
Reverend Harry Krishna, and I was like, oh, got it. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, they had stuff like that. I thought it was fun. And I honestly, some kind of charm to it. I don't know what it was. Just watching the first one, even how they filmed it, where it's like they're watching a movie, talking about like how they all kind of met each other. I thought that was kind of a cool idea in itself.
You're talking the framing device where it literally starts with all the Muppets in the theater gathered together
Exactly.
to watch
Yeah.
the Muppet movie.
And
Right.
and I don't think even all of them are in the movie that they watch. It's just like
Correct.
mostly the main cast.
Mhm.
So kind of what is that? It's like, is that his nephew, Kermit's nephew? I forget
Robin.
his name.
Yes.
Robin.
Yep.
Yeah, he's there and he's talking about it. I'm like, who the hell's Robin? I remember he did have like a cousin or whatever or nephew, Robin. So I was like, okay, yeah, he's there, but they don't explain where he came in.
Even like the bigger kind of extended theater scenes, or like in like the outro. This is all the show have been running. I think either 3 or 4 seasons at that point.
Yeah.
So these are all kind of known quantities.
So I mean, I think the second one kind of took what they did with the first one, and it's weird. I don't know if it felt like a reboot, but they're like, hey, we're going to take these characters that you just learned about in the first movie, and we're going to do something different and put them in a different setting. And this is how they all met. And it's a new fun story talking about it. And I was like, okay, that's fine. They're rebooting it or whatever they're doing, or they're doing, making it, a theme.
They're kind of, by the time Caper came out, it's like the end of the original Muppet movie. There've been 3 seasons of the show.
Okay.
Caper came out there, like the full 5 seasons of the Muppet Show had basically aired at that point. So
Got it.
They're kind of going back. Fairness, they are kind of going back to like the well a little bit, which they also kind of do.
Yeah. But I mean, I thought it was, I like the second one a little better. And the main reason is I felt like they kind of knew what to do with like the humor and the flow of the movie, and just like how they met the different characters in the movie felt really natural. And in the first one, I feel like a lot of like the guest appearances by different actors and stuff like that, you knew who they were. And it was kind of like one of those moments where people are clapping in the audience, like, woo, it's Steve Martin or something. And the second one, I thought it was very natural. And it didn't feel out of place. And it felt like, they're in the movies. So it's not like the movie's all about them. They just happen to be actors that are in the movie. Although Columbo, I was like, it's Columbo.
Right.
We know it's Columbo.
But it just, I definitely agree with that, because like literally in the cameos in the first movie are well used, but there's like 20, 30 of them. And you see Bob Hope and Richard Pryor and Madeline Kahn and like the mostly
Dom DeLuise
opening like thing, the movie building to them meeting Orson Welles kind of at the end of it. It does pull focus a bit. I definitely agree that I like that in Great Muppet Caper. It's like let's take 2 people that are not the biggest stars in the world, but are phenomenal performers and actually do have Muppet energy,
Sure.
And just make them like the focus.
But I mean, yeah, some of those jokes, again, like I mentioned, Kermit and Fozzie being twins throughout the whole movie, they keep doing that. And it was so funny.
That photo of their dad that Jack Ford is holding up.
Yeah.
So I did write down one quote from the movie. There were so many good ones. I thought this was funny, and this was very Johnny. And this would explain John's sense of humor.
Very much so.
I'm going to try to do it with the voices too, by the way.
Please do.
Okay. So this is Kermit.
What's up with the drummer? He seems a little crazed.
He's still upset that he missed the Renoir exhibit. Renoir!
Yeah. Yep, that was a funny line.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got one vote for yes, superior sequel. Okay. Naveen, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely the superior sequel. I thought the songs were actually a little bit more memorable in Great Muppet Caper compared to the first one. Yes, definitely Rainbow Connection is a hit. It's a great one. But I didn't remember, watching it again, the first one, the other songs.
Oh, moving right along. Right along.
Yeah. It was there, but yeah, I didn't remember it. It didn't.
Wow.
I know they sing it twice too.
Reprisal.
It just didn't. Yeah, it just didn't hit, I guess. and memorable for me. And then even watching, like Treasure Island or the newer ones that came out in the 2000s, which were actually really good. The Haunted Mansion one was okay, but the two Muppet movie or Muppets and
the one was pretty good. Like the one Muppets Most Wanted
Was
that
there
came
a
right
Ricky
after
Gervais
that.
one or something?
it was Ricky Gervais.
Yeah. Okay.
It's pretty good despite Ricky Gervais.
All right.
Eesh.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, they're both, they're pretty good and funny, but this one just had that feel, and probably because also they could get away with a lot of more jokes, whereas the newer ones had to trim down some things.
This is the really kind of core frustration with sort of being like a lifetime Muppet fan. It's like this was the best Muppet stuff I've for my money was like the first two movies and the 5 years of the show. After that, Henson kind of steps back like a little bit. There's new Muppet specials from time to time. Muppet Takes Manhattan, I don't think is particularly good, but then Jim Henson dies very young, very tragically by 1991, while he's in the midst of selling the Muppets to Disney. And unfortunately, under the Disney stewardship, they've never let the Muppets or anything around it be as weird or interesting or creative as they were under the Henson umbrella. So I think unfortunately the best that you've kind of gotten from the Muppets in our adult lifetime, absolute sort of best case scenario, it's pretty good. It's not like a golden sort of like just platinum grade classic like that you had with like the original stuff under Henson's stewardship.
Yeah, I think that's true. So Johnny, does that basically say that you think that this in fact was the superior sequel? What
I wrestled with this for like a long time after rewatching Caper. I mentioned before I saw for like the 45th anniversary of the original Muppet movie. They ran it for a couple nights, like these really sort of beautiful theater projections. So I was lucky enough to catch the original Muppet movie like a couple months back. I think the original Muppet movie is just a tad bit better, honestly, than Great Muppet Caper, having revisited both of them. The crux of it for me is that the Muppet movie, to my thinking, is like 10 out of 10. Unlike you guys, I actually like the songs like a little bit sort of more from like the original Muppet movie. But like the big thing for me is that they were basically in the original one, they were doing kind of a riff on kind of old school, kind of like American sort of road trip comedy, specifically like Bob Hope, Bing Crosby Road to films like that was super big in the 40s. And I think it's just, and that's all they were trying to do. And I think they're, you revisit the original Muppet movie, all the songs, all the performances, it's kind of in that one genre, and it's just propulsive. There's not really kind of like a wasted minute in here. Revisiting Great Muppet Caper, and maybe I'm kind of just, again, sort of, just bringing a little childhood prejudice of just me there eating kind of my rice checks and sort of just fast forwarding through like the Miss Piggy kind of stuff, like songs on the Betamax.
Sad bastard.
They're trying to do a couple different parodies within like the new one. It's about 2/3 kind of like a Caper heist, Lavender Hill Gang, Ocean's 11, kind of like a little bit of kind of James Bond stuff there too. And the other third of it, they're doing an old school sort of Busby Berkeley musical. And for me, kind of revisiting Caper, I think that the jokes are amazing. The high points are incredibly high. I think it has like one of the best third acts ever in film. But I think every time that they're kind of parroting one genre, and every time they swap, they kind of change tracks over to the other thing, I feel like it kills the momentum like a little bit, and it doesn't really. It doesn't kind of like move like the story along like the same. I mean, but the distinction is like the Muppet movie for me is a 10 out of 10 versus just Great Muppet Caper. It's maybe like a 9.7 for me. I think like the highs are so high, and what's remarkable for a comedy from like 1981, every joke in this movie I think works. Like there's not a thing that's kind of flubbed or aged poorly. It's all so funny.
That I didn't think about that, but it's true in terms of the humor and the jokes. They're still funny now, per today's standards. Even though the movie came out wildly ahead 40
of
years
time.
ago.
Now, the comparison, I was listening to like a podcast about the Great Muppet Caper just earlier today, and what they pointed out is like the original Muppet Show was The Simpsons before like The Simpsons were like actually.
It's fair.
Yeah.
That's an interesting take. So as it turns out, we have a split jury here, because I also agree that ultimately I prefer the Muppet movie over the Great Muppet Caper. What I said here was the Muppet movie to me feels this makes it sound way more sophisticated than it is, but it feels more like a documentary about the Muppets. And it also feels more akin, at least to my memory, of the original Muppet Show, because you've got this, you've got it's about friendship, it's about following your dreams, it's about the pursuit of happiness, it's goofy, it's bizarre.
And there's also there's higher level themes you can kind of take away from it. Just just ambition, be ambitious, but sort of temper that with ethics at the end of the day. And in the original Muppet movie, there is that really kind of, I think, like revisiting as an adult, remarkable scene where Kermit is kind of out in the desert and he has a conversation with himself, and he's just like, I left the swamp. I decided to take like a huge risk, and look where it's got me. We're in the middle of nowhere, and I'm completely miserable. And then he's talking to his alter ego, and his alter ego. And this is I think, very adult and sort of profound point. He said, well, if you had stayed in the swamp, you would also be miserable, but you'd also still just be in the swamp.
Yeah.
That's kind of quite a lot there. But
I think.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. So I was just gonna say, I feel like the Great Muppet Caper feels more like it almost feels like it's a movie where the Muppets are the real quote unquote Muppets are actors playing the roles of these Muppets, these characters in the Great Muppet Caper. So in other words, Kermit is an actor playing Kermit in the Great Muppet Caper. Whereas in the Muppet movie, Kermit's just Kermit being Kermit.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense. In my head,
don't they introduce it to be that way though? Where they're kind of like, hey, we're who we are, and we're gonna go do this story or whatever. We're gonna go and how they set it up, the Muppet Caper at the very beginning, where they show
the whole dance routine in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. They have the big dance routine, and they're kind of doing that and setting the scene.
You literally see like a wardrobe rack kind of pass by them. They land on what's very, very obviously like a studio backlot.
Yeah,
like the whole kind of core theme at the beginning. On top of them, sort of meta reading the credits is like, we're very, very aware that this is we're kind of doing like a genre film right now.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So the Muppet movie just feels more Muppety to me than the Great Muppet Caper does.
Right.
Johnny, to your point, I mean, they're both fantastic movies. They're both a lot of fun. As a big Muppet fan, I agree with you. Take that for what it's worth.
Andy, to build on what you said, like a little bit, the big thing I kind of come back to is like, the Muppet movie had a larger theme and something to say about kind of ambition and creativity and find a community, everything else, versus Great Muppet Caper. And this is fine that it does this, but the Great Muppet Caper is like, we're not really going for like a bigger idea or message here. We're just trying to make a fun, wacky, anarchic sort of caper pick that sort of people can enjoy. It doesn't not that it really kind of takes away from anything, but it doesn't have the same kind of sort of message or sort of thematic ambitions.
I mean, I was gonna say to its credit too, usually for when you have a movie where characters come together, like the Avengers or something like that, those movies usually always hit because it's kind of like, these strangers coming together. It's probably not going to work out. They bicker, but they have to come together because of this one cause. And in this movie, it happens to be they want to go to Hollywood. And then you have the sequel, and it's what do you do with the sequel? Do you have them? Do you redo the same thing and put on a new coat of gloss on it, call it like Age of Ultron?
Which is if you redo the same thing, it's usually the much very highly diminishing returns.
So they said, let's try something different. We'll just create, kind of like an origin story per se, but it's like a new theme and it takes place in London and it's under different circumstances. And there's, a heist that Piggy's framed for. So it's kind of cool. I like how they did that, and it was something different.
Yep. Okay, so speaking of moving right along, Vigo's Toes.
Vigo's Toes.
Does anybody have any interesting tidbits that they would like to share about this movie?
So I have one. I don't know if it's real. I want to believe it's real because I think it's really fun. But I guess when they were coming up with a title for the movie, did you guys hear about this? Great Muppet Caper?
Yeah, I think I know what you're.
Yeah.
They surveyed the families and
four main writers. They couldn't come up with a name to throw on the script. They had like a contest between them for like who'd come up with the best name for a movie. Somebody proposed the Rocky Muppet Picture Show. Someone
Terrible.
else, somebody proposed a Froggy Day in London. Not bad.
Don't hate it. Don't hate it.
And then it was Jim Henson's daughter, Lisa, who proposed the Great Muppet Caper. And then her dad says, that's good, but we'll just call it the Great Muppet Caper.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Just sort of creatives, just kind of being difficult and sort of too precious about it. But fairness, look at what we had to go through to name this podcast,
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
I've still got the Google survey somewhere.
Or like naming kids. How do you come up with like names for kids? And you're like, so what'd you name your kids?
Legitimate question. How do you come up with names for kids? I asked the three of you.
I just ask people that I meet, what are your Hi, I don't know you. Your kids are adorable. What are their names? And then I followed that up with, that's a great name. Can I take them home? No, I'm kidding. That never happened. I just don't give my kids a blood test.
Nice.
Anybody else? Vigo's Toes?
I'm here all night, by the way, guys.
Try the veal. Yeah.
I have one that's a little bit for Eric because he was so kind of gracious and patient of just him being like the non-Muppet fan of Thor, but sort of kind of still going into this with was kind of his trademark good humor. Diana Rigg, who was famous for like a few different things. She was a major kind of like a fashion and sex symbol for British TV in like the 60s when she started in the Avengers as Emma Peel, and she was the Bond girl and on Her Majesty's Secret Service, still the only one to date that actually got married to James Bond, even though she just got gunned down outside the church right after the ceremony was done. But Eric, this one's for you. Do you know who she played in Game of Thrones? Off the top of
I
your head.
do.
Okay.
I do. I don't remember her name offhand.
Olenna Tyrell was Natalie Dormer's mother.
What? Okay. She's not the one that's like is she the old woman? She's not the one that's yeah.
The one who's always wearing like the veil.
The sassy one.
Yeah.
That's who I thought. As soon as you said it, I was like, wait, it has to be. I haven't seen in ages, so I forget her name. But I remember, gay coworker / friend at the time. We were both watching the show together, and we were talking about like the previous night's episode, and it was just something where she just had all these like amazing lines, and he's goes like, "You go, bitch," and I was like, I'm there with him. She was so good.
Interesting thing about sort of Game of Thrones is any elderly woman I think that you see at the show, you look back, you go back to what she looked like in the 60s, and she turns out to be like a major British just bombshell either kind of TV movie star, whatever else. Fun thing about Diana Rigg on kind of Game of Thrones, she had actually at some point she was so accomplished and popular as an actress, she was actually knighted. It's technically she's a Dame, Diana Rigg. And she was the first ever Game of Thrones cast member to actually have like a knighthood.
Wow!
I should probably watch that show at some point, huh?
Start with the book. Start with the book.
we haven't talked a ton about this, but Diana Rigg. This is one of those where I didn't sort of recognize how funny Miss Piggy's performance was when I was kind of watching this as a kid. And I certainly didn't recognize how funny Diana Rigg's performance was when I was watching this kid. But just every single scene the woman has, it's just I think she just absolutely knocks it out of the park.
She's got some good lines.
Yeah. Also, she's 43 in this. She's like a year younger than.
Oh shit! Really? Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think it's canon in the RWAPPU that I can't read. So I'm gonna have to start with the shows. You know what the RWAPPU is?
No idea.
What are you talking
Rebels Without a Podcast Universe. I'll also
about?
be here. Always.
Here we go.
Another Google survey for that.
What universe are we in now?
I don't know.
It's
It depends on what timeline you're in.
Yeah.
Naveen, any Vigo's toes?
I did quite a few, but they should be short. But going off of Diana Riggs being the Bond girl, when she actually is seen leaving the jewelry store,
mm-hmm.
and it says Bond jewelry.
Oh no!
Yeah, I noticed that. Yep.
Snap.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say the three models, the way that they're dressed for the heist of the baseball diamond at the end of the movie. They're the Marla, Carla, and Darla are all wearing Emma Peel outfits, like Diana Rigg had back on the show.
Oh, really? I thought they were supposed to be like Charlie's Angels type girls.
I think that's probably a riff on it at the time.
Maybe they all knew kung fu or something like that at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Not very good at it. Women.
Woman.
Yeah. The Happiness Hotel song in the movie, when Animal yells out, they say Rembrandt exhibit.
Right.
But on the song,
it's Rembrandt. Renoir.
Yeah.
Right. But on the soundtrack, they say Monet exhibit.
Mm.
I wonder why they changed it.
Nobody knows from now on. Let's change it to Monet.
Rembrandt, Renoir. The movie takes a little more it's a little more funny acoustically, I think. Monet's maybe
it's great because if you don't know who a Renoir is, you could look it up on your phone nowadays, but back then they're kind of like, who? No. I don't think I've ever seen his calendar before.
It's 6 years old with a Betamax. I just kind of glaze over it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the few that I had that I wanted to say. I was going to do the bike scene, but I'll keep that to myself.
Sweet.
Save it.
Naveen and Andy, I'm curious if you really laughed at this as kind of both dog owners, but when they're getting chased by the German Shepherds, and Ralph's like, "Hold on, let me talk to them." Woof 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 woof. And
that was great.
He's like, helps know second language.
Yeah.
Listen, the Caught Red-Handed is always a classic, and they do it 3 times. It's just hits every single time.
It's funnier each time.
But the one that I didn't really catch until this watch was when Gonzo's explaining what he overheard, and he goes, "As I was working on my photographic essay of kneecaps," I was like, "What? Photographic essay of kneecaps?"
Oh, I love Gonzo.
I never clocked for the Gonzo lines is when they're taking the double-decker bus over the Thames, and Gonzo takes a picture, and Fozzie's like, "Sorry, I got my elbow in the shot." And Gonzo goes, "It's okay, it adds human interest." There.
Yeah. And they're going over, what does he say? The British River or the London River?
Yeah.
It's
English
the
Channel?
London Bridge over the Thames, and he's just like, "I think this river is called the English."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, there's the Eiffel Tower."
Yeah.
So many good lines. I didn't really have anything for Vigo's toes, but I don't know if you guys knew this prior to watching these movies. I being a big Muppets fan, I know a lot of Muppets trivia, but this one I didn't know. The Muppets, they're puppets, guys.
There we go.
They're puppets.
I
was like, what? When I found that out.
childhood just
Yeah,
shattered.
there's just me just back in the oxygen tank, just going. Come back when you have GoBots.
Yeah, right.
There I
Come on.
am as a little child back in the oxygen tank, playing with fucking dead, lifeless puppets.
Yep. Yeah. So that's a little known fact. Don't
That's
wanna spoil-
disgusting. Keep that to
think
yourself, please.
Sorry, man.
I knew that before, but I think they're called Muppets because they're kind of like a hybrid of marionettes and puppets.
Oh, is that what it is? I don't know what a Muppet was. It's like
Yeah.
a Muppy.
Yeah.
Muppet.
There's some string work, but there's also puppetry involved.
Right,
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay,
they
so
kind of play with that format, and they kind of make fun of it. They bring actual puppeteers and ventriloquists onto like the original run of the Muppet Show, and they kind of rip on that.
yeah. Okay, so I believe that closes up our questions. Leads us into our sorbet portion of the palate cleansing portion of this podcast. Eric, I think you said you had put together something for us.
I did. All right.
Please explain.
We're
What
going
do
to
you
talk
got?
about puppets some more.
There we guys, they were puppets. Holy shit.
Mhm.
Here we go.
Sorbia.
The actual Swedish word for sorbet.
Sorbia?
Sorbia.
Nice job.
Sorry, it's
It's
more
a
like
silly language by
I'm
beautiful
half
people.
Swedish, so I mean I can't really pull off that kind of like Norwegian.
Right.
Yeah, sorry. So I have a fun little game for you guys. I have taken 9 Muppets, and I looked up online when they actually debuted. And what I would like to have you guys do is put them in, order from earliest appearance to latest appearance. And it's going to be tough. That's all I'm going to say. So preparing for that, what I did is I came up with 3 hints. Okay. Each one of you can request a hint. If you request a hint, you have to ask in your best Muppet voice. I don't care which Muppet, but pick one Muppet and you need to ask for the hint. Mm-hmm. You can say maybe the phrase like, please give me a hint, or
if I start talking Swedish
please.
at one point, just assume I need help.
Yeah, where's the button to turn John's live feed off? Okay, got that one prepped. So each one you get one hint, and I'm not sure if the hints are really going to help you that much, but they help create some kind of perspective on when things happened in the timeline.
The reveal after the fact, I think, is going to be that Eric had like all these hints written by AI. So,
yes. Yeah, John's got the AI responses covered. So I don't know if you guys want to just jot these names down, so you can kind of figure it out. Hopefully you get a pad ready. All right. So the ones I picked for today are in no particular order: Kermit the Frog, Miss Piggy, Fozzie, Gonzo, Rolf the dog, Beaker. We good so far?
Yep.
Animal, Skeeter, not Scooter, Skeeter, and Pepe the Long Prawn.
I'm a King Prawn.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, he's a great character.
He's a good character.
Is he?
Yeah.
Was he co-starring with Ricky Gervais or something? Or
He's definitely one of the. I won't say.
All right, so I'm gonna frame it like this, okay? You guys probably should work together. You guys can have whatever, come up with your own different original answers. Each of you probably have different answers, but you probably should work together on this one. It is not as obvious as you think.
Yeah.
Some yes, some no.
Point of clarification: Are
Yes.
are these the TV or movie reviews of these particular Muppets, or are these when Henson or
The puppet debuted on air, whether
the on air,
it's
the on air
TV or movie?
Okay.
Got it. All right. So,
So we're all gonna work together to get this answer?
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
I like that
So
idea.
earliest debut to the latest debut.
Okay,
Right.
so I can at least sort of get us kind of grounded on both tales of these things. Skeeter is number 8 because that was exclusively a Muppet Babies feat. That was Muppet Babies debut character, and Muppet Babies debuted after Muppets Take Manhattan. So I'm very confident that's number 8. Pepe the Prawn was a character that I think was kind of debuted in one of like the post-Henson Muppet movies, maybe Christmas Carol or Treasure Island. I'm like not 100%, but I'm pretty sure that's 9. And as for the first 2, I'm a little uncertain about this, but which is why I asked for the clarification from Eric, because Rolf and Kermit were both very, very early Henson creations, and I think off the top of my head, there's at least a sliver of a possibility Henson created Rolf before Kermit. But if we're talking on-air debuts, Kermit was a Sesame Street fixture, so I think on the basis of that, even though there's a possibility Ralph had maybe been kind of created earlier, Kermit was probably the one on television first. So I'm going to put. I think we can pretty confidently say Kermit was kind of number 1 for TV review. Rolf maybe number 2, but it becomes very, very tricky. It becomes like tricky after that. So
I would have said Rolf was first
for an on-air debut ahead of Kermit.
Yeah, and the only reason I say that is because, and maybe I'm not giving Henson enough credit here, but a dog is an easy, like it's an animal that I could see somebody thinking of first to make a puppet out of. I mean, you look next to you and you got a dog sitting next to you. Oh, I'm going to make one that's a dog. Whatever.
Right. That's fair, but we're talking kind of on-air debuts. Kermit was always like a fixture on the original run of Sesame Street.
But did he? I mean, Rolf was on Sesame Street too, wasn't he? From time to time.
Was he?
I thought he was. Maybe not.
I can think of like a bunch of sort of Sesame Street. Again, like this is a show I watched like just in neglect of like my unopened Christmas presents. Like I've seen like a fair amount of it. I don't remember off the top of my head Ralph actually being on Sesame Street.
Okay, then let's go with Kermit for 1. Just because it seems like an obvious one, but who knows? Naveen, do you have any thoughts on anything?
I was definitely thinking Pepe was last, like he's the newest one.
Agreed.
Kermit, I was definitely thinking was first because he's the biggest one. Second, I was thinking more Fozzie because he's a bigger friend character to Kermit than Ralph was. Ralph always kind of seems like a bit part.
He was a person. I mean, he wasn't quite as interesting as like the core Muppets. He's always been kind of like the beta tier.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, for their on-air debut, I'm not that big of a fan, and I'm kind of lost there.
So Kermit, we can say, okay, just assuming my memory about Sesame Street was correct, which I'm fairly kind of sure, certain that it was. Kermit seems like a logical number 1. Skeeter and Pepe as 8 or 9. I think are also. I think we can call those locks. So that's 3, let's say, locks that we have. So what's for the left is Piggy, Fozzie, Gonzo, Ralph, Beaker, and Animal. And this is where it gets extremely tricky because this kind of comes down. This sort of splits from, okay, what were these sort of decade apart debuts to who appeared first on literally the initial half dozen or so episodes, like the first season of the show.
I think we should put Rolf as 2 because I could see him being in like the intro to the Muppet Show, like as the musical accompaniment or whatever. So maybe he pops on first. I could see that happening.
First episode of the Muppet Show, the theme song runs. It's all like the musically capable Muppets are kind of running first. So Ralph always has like presence to that. So just 100% agree. So that leaves us Piggy, Fozzie, Gonzo, Beaker, and Animal.
Well, I mean, I guess if you're going to follow that logic, then Animal, because he's
Animal
also
will be number
musical.
3.
I would. Okay, I'll go with that.
Okay. So that leaves Piggy, Fozzie, Gonzo, Beaker.
I think Beaker, he's not a very big character, but I'm assuming he probably would come before Skeeter.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree with that. I would say I was thinking Beaker was 7.
Okay, I absolutely agree 7.
Okay.
So that leaves us Piggy, Fozzie, Gonzo. Now I'm thinking about there's something in the back of their mind. I don't know that Piggy necessarily appeared in the first couple episodes, the first season of the Muppet Show. I could be making that up. Not 100%.
Okay. Well, then why don't we say, so to me, it was going to be a toss-up between Fozzie and Gonzo anyway.
Yeah.
I feel like Gonzo is like a dark horse. Fozzie seems like the obvious answer.
Mm-hmm.
So
Fozzie seems like the obvious number 4.
Number 4, yes.
Yeah.
But that's why I kind of want to say Gonzo is 4. Just to be a agent of anarchy.
Okay, Eric.
Yes.
Yeah,
we got 3 hints we can use.
How do you know that I speak Swedish?
It's a long time. What do you want?
All right. So, based on your knowledge of the Muppet Show, I feel like my hint to you might be redundant. What I will say is this. One of the characters that I listed debuted in the first season of The Muppets in 1976. There's another character here as well that debuted in the second season of The Muppets the following year.
I think that's Miss Piggy.
Debut feels like Beaker to me.
No, I think that's Miss Piggy.
Where?
Was she in the first season?
Can't remember the seasons there too much.
I got 2 hints as well, by the way, guys.
The only thing I have in my head is like
I've got 2 more hints, so
yeah.
Are you feeling strong, my friend?
Hint.
What was that one?
Yeah, I didn't quite catch that. What was that? Is that?
I think he said Renoir.
Yeah, I heard Monet. All right. One of these characters appeared in a pet food commercial in 1962.
Oh.
Ralph's number 1.
That would be Ralph, yeah.
Ralph's number 1. Okay.
Gotta be, right?
Yep.
All right, so do we switch Ralph and Kermit then?
Yep.
Okay. Interesting.
Unless it was Fozzie hanging out with Smokey the Bear.
Only you can eat cat food.
You see photos of Jim Henson and Frank Oz back in the day. They were always chilling with Smokey the Bear. The story actually of how they came up with the Swedish chef was they were living in the UK at the time, trying to break into show business. They were smoking pot and watching the BBC, and this Swedish Tour de France champion sort of came on like this random BBC cooking show, and he tried to do a cooking demonstration, but he kept on dropping stuff. He kept on breaking plates. And he had like this huge mustache, and he was talking in this incomprehensible Scandi accent the entire time. Henson, apparently, he just like took a puff and came up with like the Swedish chef just on the spot.
Yeah.
That
makes sense. I like that. That's a good story.
Mm.
Okay. So then do we want to say 4 Fozzie or 4 Gonzo?
Why don't we have Naveen get the last hint, and then
what do you think,
Ask
Naveen?
for the last hint.
We want the last hint?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Miss Piggy. Do Miss Piggy.
Do Miss Piggy. No, I can't.
Naveen, do Miss Piggy.
Damn.
With ideally 800 different emotions.
Yeah. No, I can't hear that one. All I can hear is like waka waka. I don't know. I can't even do that well.
Oh no, that was good. What are you talking about? I loved it.
Give me a hint,
Oh,
please.
you wanna? I can't do it. Hey, you want a hint? That's a really shitty Fozzie.
Yeah.
I hate myself for that.
They're tough because they're so
What?
each one is so specific and so.
It
Yeah.
is. My dad used to do the Fozzie one, and I'm like, I'm fucking damned if I could do Fozzie. I just
Yeah, but
can't channel Fozzie.
Each person did like 5 different characters.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, that's what's insane. I thought, and
Like Mel
Scooter,
Blanc
like,
doing Looney
is
Tunes.
very
Holy
very
shit.
distinct. On top of what they're also doing in just Oz and Henson were also in Sesame Street. David Goles was also in Fraggle Rock. Richard Nelson was just in everything because he had like 50 different voices. So,
Okay.
so
Let
what do
me
you
give
got?
you your third hint. One of these characters first appeared as Snarl, the cigar box Frackle, in a Christmas TV special in 1970.
Snarl the what? Cigar box crackle?
Cigar box Frackle.
Crackle.
For God's sake.
It was a Christmas TV special that aired in 1970.
I mean,
That sounds like Gonzo.
Gonzo, yeah,
Yeah.
or Pepe.
animal.
Wait. So let's make Gonzo our number 3.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Okay, so,
So
that,
then
that-
animal gets bumped to
Wait.
4.
What's the name again? Snarl cigarette.
Snarl?
Yeah.
Are you looking it up on Google right now? Snarl? Snarl like, the cigar box Frackle.
Gonzo has one of the more old school sort of gross puppet design when Henson did bits on SNL for like the first year. He had like a failed kind of adult version of the Muppet Show called Sex and Death, where more of the characters were kind of done in kind of like a kind of a Gonzo like adjacent sort of design. So that
And just the voice of like overly smoking, you get that.
yeah.
Oh, that's a good point too.
Okay.
Okay, so,
So
all right,
Gonzo
so Gonzo
3, that puts Animal to 4. That leaves us just Piggy and Fozzie. And if my memory kind of serves correctly, Piggy, I don't think that Piggy again was in like the first couple episodes of the first season. But Fozzie, I would assume, is like a drop man. See, the wild thing about watching the original Muppet Show is just how much was just completely fully formed from like the first episode. You're like, oh, they had 90% of it figured out already when they started the show.
Yeah.
So I would float. Let's after Animal being 4, maybe Fozzie 5 and Piggy 6.
I agree with that.
I am good with that as well.
All right.
Okay.
So guys, can I just kind of read? So I got the list here. Can I?
Yeah.
I'll just run it kind of one more time to confirm. So I got Rolf number 1, Kermit 2, Gonzo 3, Animal 4, Fozzie 5, Piggy 6, Beaker 7, Skeeter 8, Pepe 9.
That checks out with what I had as well.
Anything
Aaron.
that we want to rethink, or we just want to roll
You
those
guys
dice?
are gonna all have the same answers.
Yep. Let's
Yep.
roll the dice. I like it.
I think somebody should just come up with some different ones. I'm just
Yeah.
curious. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see some variation.
Miss Burr. Miss Harry Burr.
All right, then I'm gonna go off the cuff with mine. I'm gonna say I still think Rolf is 1. Then I think I'm gonna go Fozzie 2, then Kermit 3. Then I'm gonna say Gonzo 4. Miss Piggy 5.
Oh, what?
Animal 6. What is that? Let's see. So Beaker. I'm gonna say Beaker. No, I'm gonna say Pepe 7.
That
Beaker.
would be wrong.
I know. I assume it's wrong, but I'm just throwing it in there because I thought maybe it was a wild card. I still think Pepe's last. Pepe. All right, so forget it. Then we'll go Beaker, Skeeter, and then Pepe.
Okay.
So
All right.
a little bit different.
Sure. Naveen, do you agree with both of them or either of them?
I agree with the first one that we did together, but
right.
if I were to kind of go on my own and not have those, I would probably go Rolf, Kermit, based on the hints as well.
Yeah.
Rolf, Kermit, Fozzie, Animal, Miss Piggy, Gonzo. I can't stay away from Beaker, Skeeter, and Pepe as the last three. Those ones
So
those are the only real locks, I think, are the last two.
Just to make sure, John, what were your first four again?
My first four were Rolf, Kermit, Gonzo, and Animal.
Cool. Okay. So you guys actually did pretty good.
Right.
It's not perfect, but you did better than I thought you would, to be honest.
Okay.
But here's the twist: we're all actually AIs.
Oh shit! What do I do? Oh no, they took my job.
We're very slow AIs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah.
Those
Although your movie reviews were spot on.
interlinked.
Take take the movie, turn the movie on, watch the movie, survey the movie. Okay, so I feel like after I gave you that first hint, the second hint, it maybe kind of altered your answers, which I was kind of disappointed in myself, but I didn't think it was going to go in that direction. Kermit the Frog is a very old puppet. He was created in the 50s.
Wow.
So he debuted in 1955 on a show called Sam and Friends. I've never heard of it. It's a puppet sketch comedy show. It was the lead-in to The Tonight Show.
Really? Huh.
Yep.
So Kermit was number one.
He was, and I believe he's the only puppet from that show that went on to be on The Muppets.
Okay.
Yep. I looked it up too. His debut in Sesame Street was 1969.
Nice.
Yeah.
What? Come on, dude.
Not have a podcast.
Yeah, Naveen's doing he's high-fiving air, and we're all just kind of receiving air. It's great.
High-fiving his family that's not there.
He's like, yeah, I was so into that Kermit for number one, man. Number two was, like, you guys should have figured out, Rolf the dog.
Yeah.
Rolf, 1962. He first appeared in Purina dog chow commercials.
Nice.
Sweet.
Good God. Third was you got that one. It was Gonzo. 1970. He was in something called the Great Santa Claus Switch, as the cigar box Frackle. It was a Christmas special that was on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Huh.
Eric, what was Kermit's debut year? Remind me.
1955.
55. Yeah. Okay.
All right, number four. What do you guys think? You think it's what?
We thought it was Animal.
I think this is one of the middle range is going to be like the middle three are going to be the toughest. Absolutely.
Yeah, they are. They are. Number four was Miss Piggy.
Okay.
And she didn't appear where you think she appeared. She appeared in let's see. Okay, Naveen can correct me in this. Is it Herb Alpert? Do you know Herb Alpert? He's a famous trumpeter. I don't know what is it?
Herb.
It's Herb.
Hard H.
Yep.
Herb Alpert. He had a television special in 1974, and Miss Piggy made an appearance in it. Really weird one. I haven't gone back to watch the clip, but
interesting.
That was. And remember, these all predate the actual Muppet Show
by quite a bit.
Yeah. The next one was Animal. Animal was 1975. John mentioned this earlier. One of the pilots for a Muppet Show was called the Sex and Violence. The Muppet Show Sex and Violence. It debuted in 1975. I think they only did like 2 episodes, maybe. So yeah, that's where Animal came from, and I think it's the Swedish Chef as well. Came from that show. Yeah.
Number 6.
Waka Waka.
There it is.
1976. Muppet Show, season 1. He played the insecure stand-up comic bear.
Was this episode 1? Yeah,
I don't know if it was episode 1. I'm not sure. I've never watched the show.
Yeah, sure beats
As
the
an adult, at
masturbating
least.
bear.
There's all they're not all amazing, but if you go on to like you can kind of Google search for this, and like the top 15 or 20 Muppet shows are still stay similar to the movies. It's just some of the best, most entertaining television that you really like ever watch.
A lot of those shows, like SNL, for example, if you went back and watched like season 1, I'm sure there's funny moments, but there's
it's the kind of thing where it's just like, you know, that not everything from that first season will be. This is every year of SNL, like 10% of the fun you've ever seen, and then like 90% garbage.
Oh man, Bill Murray was so bad on the show.
Yeah.
All right. So
Zendaya.
Number 7.
Number 7 was Beaker.
Yes.
He was in season 2 of the Muppet Show. And from there, you guys got the rest correct.
Yeah.
I had to throw Skeeter. Scooter was the first season of Muppet Show, so I couldn't use Scooter. I picked Skeeter because I knew she was, I think, the only original character for Muppet Babies, which was 1984.
Right.
And then
it was literally just we need another girl.
Yeah. And then Pepe the Prawn was 1996. He was also the in Long John Silver commercials for a while.
Sure.
Yeah. So
sorry, what year was
why
Skeeter?
not? Skeeter was 1984.
84.
That was fun. I like that, Eric.
Yeah, that was really.
You guys did a great job. I want to say you got what, like 6 of 9, correct?
We did pretty good.
Yeah, everything.
I mean, not your second guesses, Andy. I think you got the last 3 right, and that was it. And you almost got them all wrong.
Yeah,
totally blew that. Yeah,
everything with the exception of Piggy, everything else I either got right or was off by 1.
There's no way I could drop that hint for it to make any sense at all. That's why I just kind of left it alone.
Yeah,
well, it's interesting because, you know, just one of the core themes, like I mentioned earlier about like the Muppet movie, is that Kermit is literally there. He's kind of out. He's nobody. He's wandering through the desert. He picks up a community, but he's very unsuccessful for like a really long time. And when you actually look at the history of he didn't start Sesame Street. He didn't start the Muppet Show whole cloth. He was just in the trenches for years and years and years before he actually became successful.
Yeah.
Great
Well,
survey.
guys,
That was really fun.
Yeah.
I think that sort of wraps it up. That was a fun episode. A very good choice of movies, Johnny. I enjoyed that. The Muppets are phenomenal. Eric, I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
So
in fairness, Eric was much sort of more tonally soft in this one than I was really expecting.
I was being kind to Johnny's childhood.
I'm just closing the flaps on my oxygen tent now. Get out that negativity.
By the way, those puppets, when you were in that little plastic bubble, and you that day that you were in there, and you kind of woke up and you just stretched your arms, you're like,
Mom, turn it off now if you're listening still.
They were in my crib.
Okay.
My family didn't have money.
You bastard.
Yeah, they also didn't care about bubble babies.
On that note, coming up next week, we do have the final entry in our Superior Sequels cycle, the 1985 dark fantasy movie Return to Oz, selected by the one and only Eric.
John,
Eric,
come on, make a Muppets joke about this. Come on. It's Oz, Return to Oz. So,
did you pick this movie as a way of confronting one of your childhood fears head on, or was it just sort of in an effort to pass that fear on to the rest of us so you no longer feel so lonely inside?
This was my I think I told you, this is my gateway movie. If you wanted to be my friend, you had to watch this movie. And I would actually have sleepovers. And we go to the video rental place, and I would purposely rent this movie. And I think I was doing this in maybe like 3rd grade or something. And I'm like, you got to watch this movie. So we would watch this movie, and every single one of my friends was like, what the fuck is this? And it's kind of like The Ring. I exposed them. And none of them are alive today, by the way. They're all dead. But it's like The Ring tape. You watch it, and then
either dead or in the Jesuit ministry.
Yeah. 7 days later, you're a Jesuit priest.
Interesting.
It's a really weird, fucked up movie. I recommend you guys watch it. The reason I propose it being a superior sequel is I tried rewatching the original. Guys, it's not that good. I mean, it's good. It's good. It's a classic, but it's a snooze fest.
I think I fall asleep every time I watch it.
I will not watch. That's the only one I will not watch before I watch Return to Oz.
I've seen it so many times at this point. I don't need to watch it again.
I'm good with it.
So let me sort of very kind of briefly tag onto what Eric was saying there. This is a movie that I remembered from my childhood, along with The Never-Ending Story and this very crazy Japanese kind of children's anime called Unicorn on the Island of Magic, where I was at the time just like, that was completely horrifying. Why was this a thing that they allowed to kind of like why was this allowed to be like shown to children? A very good sort of kind of post-college memory for me is just Eric and I kind of randomly hang out one night at his apartment. We got into a conversation about Return to Oz. Decided to go out and kind of rent it one night. The sleepover thing is new, delightful detail I didn't really kind of know about before. But it was one of those where we there was a little indie kind of video place like right outside of UMass. We picked it up. We just put the movie in. We're watching it, and it was one of these very gratifying things that like, this is somehow even crazier than my childhood memory.
There was 6 people in the room, by the way. It wasn't just me and John. I convinced my roommate and then a few of his Indian friends who all just got really high to watch this movie. And you just watch their expression like as it goes. And that movie felt so slow. I don't know what it was, but just the terror was just
it was what like watching it like in 6, because I just remember kind of being at that age, like there's the temporal sense of watching a 90-minute movie when you're that young or that high is like it's not 90 minutes. It's like this is a 7.5 hour one.
That was years went by.
Yeah.
I just to ask, have either of you guys seen it before?
No.
I
never seen Return to Oz.
I can't confidently answer that question. I feel like I may have seen at least some of it, but I really don't remember. Maybe I'll remember more once I watch it this week.
It will. If you did, it'll come back.
Yeah.
I'm really all those repressed memories that you have just unfold, and it'll be.
This fundamentally is why it's good. Eric and I are doing like horror movies on like the spin-off pod, because this is a pick I am so excited about. But this is not going to be a happy conversation next week.
I'm not being a shithead for choosing this. This is legit part of my childhood. So that's why it's no Muppets movie, but it's the best that I can offer.
I'm pretty excited to watch it. I got to be honest with you. Like I really want to see it through a 44-year-old's eyes and see if it's still creepy or if it's just cheesy now and it's not creepy.
Oh, no.
We'll see.
Don't watch it alone.
So we got that, and you want to talk briefly about what we got coming like the week after?
Yep. So after next week's episode, the following week is Johnny. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's going to be a Rebels Yell.
That's our debut music review format, Rebels Yell,
where each one of us in the last episode selected an album for the others to listen to. So 4 albums in total. And we will be talking through those albums and our opinions and our critiques and likes and dislikes on that episode. The following episode is going to be a very special Halloween episode where we're going to be discussing George Romero's 1982 horror comedy anthology Creepshow, which is a movie I believe 2 of the 4 of us have seen. Naveen, have you seen it?
Nope, I haven't.
Okay.
Sweet.
So 2 of the 4 of us have not seen it. I got to be honest with you. I am so excited to watch that movie. Like, I can't wait to see it. That's the one I'm most looking forward. That's the show I'm most looking forward to sort of coming up. I can't wait to see that one.
We sort of discussed like our Halloween picks offline. There were some great suggestions. There was a suggestion to rewatch discussed earlier over the Garden Wall in its entirety, which I think would be great. Monster Squad was also thrown out. Jason X, Jason in Space,
Lost Boys.
I think
Lost Boys definitely, yeah.
But 1982, Romero's Tales from the Crypt, an anthology horror movie, which is just a conceptual format that Erica sort of like discussed previously. Co-written by Stephen King, a very poorly acted, possibly coked out Stephen King actually stars in one of the spots on the film. I'm very, very excited for like the four of us to kind of rewatch and kind of talk about it.
Yep, Creepshow's great. It wasn't an original book. It was just something they did that was unique and different, and I think they did a pretty good job with. There is some cheese factor, by the way, but it might be for you.
It'll be fun.
You'll look at Rusty Nielsen in a whole different way after that.
Yeah.
This was a fun chat. I'm already looking forward to the next one. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for episode 25. Definitely not episode 23 of Rebels Without a Pod. And in the immortal words of my friends Statler and Waldorf, just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens. What? It ends.
Thank you,
There it is,
gentlemen.
guys. Thanks, everybody.
Nice. Thank you.
Take care.
Hi.
Thank you.